And today, officially, at least to the rest of the public, that is what will happen this spring. There will not be a spring game. And my assumption is going forward, there will not be a spring game. Is this a good thing for the sport of college football? Or is this kind of just another example of the sport changing for the worse, in your opinion?
Here's the thing, right? In sports, it's always monkey see, monkey do, right? And in that sense, I do think I'm a little skeptical of what precedent could be being set here, because listen, Sean, I'll give you an example. All right, I think Matt Rule, no disrespect, that's a ridiculous reason. If you think in 2025 teams aren't going to be able to find your players and poach your players because all of a sudden they saw one or two guys make a catch. Sean, I covered Florida International University football for 6 years. All right. In the last 5 years, I covered the program. They had 26 players go from G5 to Power Four. Right. Hate to break it to you, no one's going to FIU Stadium for a G5 for a spring game. Right. You know how that works? Is Jose Borregales, the kicker for FIU, makes a game-winning kick against Miami, and Miami says, "Oh, let's go get that guy because we played against him." Or a coach sees a guy, on the highlights on TV and says, "Hey, maybe we have a void there, right? Maybe we have a need, right?" It's not all of a sudden they saw your play at a spring game. So there's no disrespect to Matt Rule, but that's just nonsensical to me. Now let's bring it to Texas and Steve Sarkisian's reasoning, which I'm willing to give a little bit more credence, and then after this, I will answer your question whether I think it's good or bad. So Steve said with Kay Adams that his team's played 30 games, and just from a wear and tear perspective, he wants to lighten the load, right? I will 100% believe that answer if, and to Steve's credit, he has been consistent in saying this. Even going back to December, he kind of hinted at it with the local media here in Austin, that he wants to go more to an OTA, NFL style offseason. If you know anything about OTAs, you're not doing any hitting, right? That's not how it works. It is organized team activities. It is drills. It is working with your position coach. That's what it is. If Sark holds firm to that, then by all means, go ahead, right? Now, if we're just getting rid of the spring game, but we're still going to do the scrimmages and we're still going to,
Right.
go live X amount of time, well, then what are we talking about, right? Because we're just getting rid of one live session. And it's not even a full live session with your full guys, right? So that's where I'll hold Steve Sarkisian's feet to the fire, and I'll be curious as to how it kind of plays out. To your question, you asked me, do I think it's good or bad? Even when I was a student at UCF and as a fan, I never really got that much out of spring games. Sean, I think for people who are true football nerds, and listen, we're in the state of Texas, right? This is football country. We're not just talking about people who go there to eat hot dogs and drink beer. Some people, actually, want to dive into this. But I never really thought you got that much out of a spring game personally, outside of a guy like a Thatcher Milton, for example, a Texas walk-on who gets his moment in the sunshine, right? Hauls in 2 touchdowns in the spring game, or excuse me, 1 touchdown last year, 4 catches, 80-some yards, 1 touchdown, and he gets his moment in the sunshine. God bless him. You're not getting many opportunities in games. He'll lose out on that opportunity. But I don't think you're missing out on much. I think, and I'll be curious to see if Chris Del Conte, because if you know anything about Chris Del Conte, he cares about PR. He wants to, make fans happy, right? If they're going to do some sort of, Pro Bowl skills activity, or even Lane Kiffin, what do you have last year, right? The dunk contest, just a bunch of random activities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give the fans that opportunity to come congregate at DKR and have that camaraderie that Texas fans want to have. If you can create something for that's not necessarily traditional football, I'm all for that. And maybe you open up a spring practice to fans so they can see some actual football. I think that's a fair and reasonable solution.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion, I think, because you've got some people that are just die hard. You got to have the spring game, and I actually enjoy watching the spring game. I like to see the new players. To
Yes.
me, with so many early enrollees and things like that, that's one of the cooler things about the spring game. You get to see a lot of young guys before they actually go through fall and camp and all that stuff, and maybe get an opportunity to play that fall. So it's cool from that perspective. I live far away from Austin, so I don't get a chance to get down there as much for the spring games and things like that. I mostly catch them on TV, but uh, I agree with you though. I think they will definitely figure out a way to do something. They will bring the fans in, get the fans mixed in with the football team and the coaching staff and all those things, and there'll be something like that to kind of celebrate Texas football in the spring at the end of spring practice, whatever that looks like. Yeah, I don't know, man. Change isn't always bad. I think a lot of people are really scared of change, and most humans are reluctant to change just because we're kind of set in our ways. We get in a groove and we like to be in that groove, good, bad, or indifferent. But I wonder if we're just dragging college football fans through too much stuff too quickly, and we're not letting them just get used to the one change before we drag them through another change. It'll be interesting to see how all this plays out. You know, NIL, transfer portal were really big changes for college football fans. And then NIL just kind of turned into this monster where you got, I don't think a lot of people anticipated. I mean, we knew people were going to leave school and go to different schools. But I think most people just kind of had it in their head. It was going to be the third string guy. The third string guy that didn't get to play. That makes sense. He's going to get an opportunity to go somewhere else and maybe get on in a program and show what he can do and maybe get some playing time. What I don't think a lot of people really thought about and anticipated was the first string guy that just rushed for 1,500 yards and all of a sudden goes, I'm going into the transfer portal. And I think it's that tie-in with NIL that makes the transfer portal so volatile for college football, most college football fan. And there's probably some people out there that just don't care either way. They're just like, I don't care. This is my team. I'm going to root for my team, and that's cool too. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this spreads across college football, the no spring game thing, and what teams do to replace it. And then again, as we continue to move through these changes, what how do fans, do we start losing fans? Maybe we start picking up fans that we wouldn't have gotten in the first place. It'll just be kind of interesting to see if the business of college football cannot sort of implode on itself and kind of ruin what college football is to so many people and especially old people like me. It's like
Well,
totally different for me than when
well,
I was in high school even. So it's kind of
real,
nuts.
real, real quick, Sean. What I think you're touching on, I'll make this point super quick. What I think you're touching on is NIL, transfer portal, all that stuff has happened. Of course, the transfer portal's kind of, made transfers, kind of be on steroids. But what I think you're touching about, or what you're touching on is you don't get to have your guy for 4 years. You don't get to have your guy for 3 years anymore, right? That's what made college football special, right? Is you got to grow, have that attachment that, hey, I saw that quarterback when he was, 17, 18 and was recruited. He was a 4 year starter. And you have that memory. Think about it, Texas, the Major Applewhite era, the Vince Young era, the Colt McCoy era, right? That's what you're touching on. More than anything
Hmm.
else is you don't get to build those relationships anymore, that attachment. That's what it is. And I think there's a fair point there that there's something about that is lost because at that point, it's now the NFL where it's like, oh man, do I really build an attachment for a guy? Look at the Dallas Mavericks, who's a basketball example. That's why those fans are so upset because Luka Doncic was their guy, right?
Hmm.
So that's what you're touching on.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think I'm not an NFL guy at all. I don't enjoy watching the NFL. I will turn it on Sundays if I'm sitting on the couch, just to have football because I love football. But I don't really pay that much attention to it, and it's because to me it's so soulless. From year to year, you have different players. It's a different 55 guys or whatever the roster size is, and guys are just, I'm going to hold out. I'm not doing practice with my teammates because I want to get paid more money. And that's coming in college football. I mean, we've already kind of saw it earlier this year when the UNLV quarterback said,
Right.
"I'm not playing any more football because there's a mix up with my NIL deal." So uh, that's the kind of stuff that for a college football fan like myself makes it really tough to have that same type of feeling because there's just not that sort of connection with the university and connection with the fan base when guys are just jumping ship left and right to go different places. It is a really interesting and super complex and it would take us months to talk about it. We could probably do a series weekly for months on NIL, transfer portal, what it's done to college football, and what it may do to college football. But anyway, I think now you got coaches saying we're not doing spring game, and a lot of. I mean, I saw Brad Kellner kind of went off today on
Yeah.
Twitter a
Yeah.
little bit about it, and I haven't had a chance to really listen to what he has to say about it, but he was clearly not happy that the spring game wasn't going to go.